taking imperfect action is just better than not taking action at all, because the more that you just take imperfect action, and like you said, 1% better every day, you will get to your destination way faster and probably like learn a lot more than if you actually just try to have everything like perfectly fit together before you even start doing something.
Welcome back to part 2 with Emma. In the last episode, I hope you've listened to it. We talked about purpose, what it is, how do you find it. So now that you've maybe thought about your purpose, you have a few ideas. Now we are going to work on the confidence part and walking in that purpose. Or maybe you're far along the road and you know your purpose, you know what your calling is, but you still need a little bit of encouragement to keep going in that. That is what the purpose of this episode is. Emma, it's so great to have you back for part 2. Super excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope since listening to the last episode, you have followed Emma, reached out to her on TikTok. If you haven't, it's at Emma_purpose coach. As you can probably see on her page, she talks a lot about not only purpose, but a lot about confidence. And that is a topic of the next episode with her. So my first question for you, Emma, is confidence, ? What is it and how do you build it?
Confidence might look a little bit different to everybody. So what's one person's version of confidence might not necessarily be yours or mine. So I think it's kind of important for everyone to define it like themselves. Like obviously confidence is a feeling of feeling like you're good enough and that you are going to be successful in something, or that you feel good and that you look good. Like those are generally things that we kind of connotate with confidence. I do think that it can look a little bit different for one person. Like everything's just different for everybody, whereas that might not be somebody else's version of confidence. So I think it's just important to like know what confidence actually means to you, and like, you know, what the feeling is. Like, what do you want to feel when you feel confident? And to start building it, you have to first know your worth. I think a lot of times people think like worth and confidence kind of go hand in hand. So you can have worth and have confidence, but you cannot have confidence without worth, like feeling worthy in yourself. I actually have a book that I can recommend to people. I believe it's called Worthy. It's a really, really great book about setting the foundations of just learning to feel and be worthy. And to kind of bring it back, like last episode, we talked a little bit about like having a foundation as a Christian and knowing like who you are in Christ. I think that is like the best foundation that you can have to build confidence and to know your worth. But honestly, a lot of times people just think that they're going to feel confident when they start doing new things. And like, it's so normal to not feel confident in anything when you're starting off. Like, I knew when I started life coaching and stuff, I like thought I was going to be like, yeah, like I got this. I can like do transformations and like help people, you know, overcome this or get them from point A to B. And that was not the case for me. I had struggled with confidence when I first started. And something that my mentors told me, and just something that I learned through doing it more often, is that you just build confidence the more that you do anything, because you become better at it. So the more that you become better at something and work on something and work towards something, you build it. But if you do have deep-seated roots of just feeling unworthy and that you're not worthy of the things that you desire, then you are not going to be able to build confidence. Like you have to have that as a foundation. So it's kind of like my vague get around for how to build confidence, because like I said, it's just building it is going to be different for everybody based on kind of where they are at in their circumstances. So
I loved how you said, I think when you first start going, you might not have a lot of confidence. I think a word that sometimes doesn't always get paired with confidence is patience. I think in order to have confidence, you have to have a lot of patience, because when you're starting something new, you're not going to be the best. You're not going to be the people that you are maybe admiring or following or seeking information from. But it's just that patience journey, that 1% every day. I talk about it in every episode, but it's true. It's just that 1% of patience each day is just one step up and gaining just more confidence. So that's a
Yeah.
great word. Yes, confidence also looks different for everybody, but I think there might be a few things that are common that hold people back from having confidence. And what are those things?
So I think like the things that hinder people a lot is they just overthink it instead of just doing. Because the reality is there's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to feel ready. You're never going to have all the information that you possibly need. And I think there comes to a point of time where you just have to realize that taking imperfect action is just better than not taking action at all. Because the more that you just take imperfect action, and like you said, 1% better every day, you will get to your destination way faster and probably like learn a lot more than if you actually just try to have everything like perfectly fit together before you even start doing something. So that's the big thing, is just stop overthinking and just start doing. Even if you don't know how, do more research, figure out one step you can take in the right direction forward. And a lot of times, like, you get more ideas on what to do next, or you learn it through the process of doing. I think it's just our society right now, it's just so normal to consume, to consume, to consume, especially with like social media, like, you know, what we're doing. But it's like far more important for you to actually take the things that you're consuming and doing something with it. Like, instead of focusing on gathering, consuming, just start creating. Like, be a creator. You're going to learn far more by just experiencing the thing that you want to get into. A lot of times, and I definitely was very guilty of this at one point in my life, is just having like a victim mentality and being like full of excuses as to why I can't do the thing that I'm desiring. And coaching is like a big help in kind of uncovering these like limiting mindsets and like mindset blocks that we have, and just feeling like things are out of our control when in actuality there's a lot more that we can control. And when people realize like it's not about blaming circumstances and blaming others, it's actually about taking what you can control, like your attitude, your reactions, the things that you can create and grow from, and using that to move forward. Because if you put your time and energy in the things that you can control, like, there's no hope in that. Like, there's nothing you can do with it. So you might as well blame yourself. Like, honestly, that's what
Yeah.
I think. I'm like, I'm just gonna blame myself for everything, because at least there's something I can do with that, you know?
Can we just rewind for a second and just sit on the phrase that you said, taking imperfect action? That is so powerful because I think a lot of us, including myself, we are so scared to take an imperfect action. We feel like each action has to be perfect. And it's just not. It's just not the reality of it. So we build up this idea of perfection in our head, and we never take the first step of imperfection. That
Yeah.
is such a powerful word. Thank you for sharing that. That is something that I am going to steal and continue to preach on. Just taking that first, second, and third imperfect action and just building that confidence. That's amazing.
Yeah, and just like another quick little thing that I use in my own business is I have a rule where when I'm working on anything like business related, it just needs to be 70% good, and then I can move on. Because if I strive for any more than that, I'm going to be stuck there for way too long. So as long as it's 70% good, 70% done, then we can move on to the next thing. And I have done way more work and gotten way further along, and just haven't been stuck ever since I've implemented that kind of like rule into things. So if anybody wants to steal that too, I feel like that's been super helpful for me anyway. So
You are 2 for 2 so far. 70% good is another great word, especially for people in the creative space. There's been times where I just sit on a photo or a video for hours, just changing the most minute details that, I mean, one, no one's going to notice. And I think sometimes that, yes, it holds us back from productivity. I think striving for that 100% score actually holds us back. I think we think that it's going to make us make us there, but it's just not true. I think 70% getting there and just moving on is more powerful than sitting on something and never getting to that next step, the next post, the next job, whatever it is. So thank you for sharing those two things. Those were amazing. Another thing that I caught that you mentioned is the victim mentality. And something that I was kind of reminded of and I think of often is that there is the most resistance in the things that we are passionate about and that we feel called to. I believe that is just where there's the most like tension between not feeling good enough, having every excuse in the book to do it. And I can relate to that. God told me to start writing and sharing stories. And I was thinking about a podcast 3 years ago. And it took me so long. Yeah. So I started an Instagram. It was kind of like a workaround to it, which has been great. I mean, I've been able to share a lot of purpose and stories and dreams there, but there was something even more that I knew God wanted, that I knew I was called to. It took me a long time. I dreamt about it. I thought about different ways to do it. Same with my photography, my Instagram. I sat on it for over a year even before I did that. Just taking notes and Google Docs of how I want it to look, what I want it to be. But I could not take that first imperfect step. Taking that first imperfect step and not playing the victim, and you will see so much life in the things that you are called to. Those are beautiful words. Thank you for sharing those.
The enemy wants us to be scared. Like, he doesn't want us to follow through with the things that God has put in our hearts. Like, that is his goal. Fear is not a fruit of the Spirit. So anytime we're experiencing fear outside of like survival, essentially, that it's not something from God. I think there is a lot of resistance when we're being called to something and things seem uncertain. We experience that fear, which holds us back, but that's like the thing that we should be running towards.
In one of your recent posts, you talked about how somebody needs your gift. The thing you're putting off, the thing that you say that you're not capable of, you're not smart enough. This frustrates me the most is when I talk to somebody about their dreams, what they want to do maybe outside of their job. What are your passions? They follow it up with, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not creative enough. And it makes me truly mad. It hurts me to hear that, because there's some truth to it. I mean, yes, there's some truth to it, because you haven't started. You haven't even started to grow in it. You haven't even learned anything about it. So when you start, you're not going to be perfect. The message that you said was there's somebody out there that needs your gift, that needs your first imperfect step. Can you just speak more onto that? I just love that so much.
This is actually something that a mentor told me when I was getting my life coach certification, because I was feeling very insecure about my coaching program and my coaching hours and things that I had to do to get my certification. I just felt like I wasn't good as the other women in the course. Like, a lot of them were older than me, had more life experience, or were just more like extroverted, and I'm an introvert at heart. My mentor was saying that the things that I deem as like not good or not a good quality of a coach are actually the things that people are looking for. So by me withholding my ability to coach people based on those things that I deemed weren't good enough, I'm withholding a gift from people. And I think too, obviously we were talking a little earlier about like confidence, like you kind of fake it till you make it. Like, of course, when you start anything new, like you're not going to necessarily have confidence in it. Like, it's normal, and for some reason, like, we feel like we should be completely confident when we start something new, and it's like, where did we come up with that? Like, that's just so silly, really. And I think too, like, we need to remember that a lot of times we're actually further along than we realize, and there's a lot of people that aren't even where we are at yet. So just because you're not necessarily like at the highest level and you haven't mastered something yet, like there's a lot of people that probably aren't where you even are yet, and you can help them even get to where you are. And the more that you build, the more people that you can help. And it's just part of the process. So I think it's just really important to kind of remember that and keep that in mind when you're trying new things. Don't get discouraged.
those, like, the reasons why you are doing something and you are starting with your story is the reason why someone will come to you rather than somebody else.
Yeah.
Not just because somebody is at the top, has mastered their craft, doesn't mean they're relatable for everybody. I
Exactly.
find, like, even for you, like, I can relate to you and your content, and you only have 1,000 followers. It's like you don't need to have a huge following. You don't need to be professional. You don't need to have all this schooling to have an impact in what you're doing. You can start today, and people will find you. The right people will find you, and be inspired and be encouraged and feel loved and seen. And that is exactly what you are doing. And your followers, everyone who watches your content appreciates that. Your confidence is it's evident, even though you might not feel it internally. You are certainly faking it until you're making it, doing such an incredible job. So I just want to encourage you in that. And those are such great words. So another piece of your content that I have connected with and have really been inspired by is there is power in our weaknesses and sharing our stories, sharing our downfalls. I've shared a few in my podcast so far, and it's people always enjoy the stories, the real life stories. Somebody who is on TikTok and, sharing your story, how have you found power in your weaknesses?
So I think it kind of goes back to like the fact that the things that we deem as weaknesses are what is going to attract people to us. Oftentimes, like our story and our hardships are our testimony. I'm in my later 20s now. I struggled through pretty much my whole 20s up until now, that I felt like I didn't have purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. I just didn't feel fulfilled. I felt lost. I felt stuck. And then I realized that that very thing that I was struggling with and deemed as a weakness was the thing that I wanted to use to help other people. And that very thing has given me purpose. And a lot of times we can find confidence and purpose in overcoming those things or using our weaknesses to help other people. With us being vulnerable and sharing our stories, like people want to just know that like the person on the other side of the screen is a human too. I don't know about you, like I do like to see people's, seemingly perfect life, and it's like a day in a life with me. I mean, I'm sure you're not watching girls put on makeup and stuff. I do, but sometimes it's just like when they're doing these things, but they're sharing like real raw stories of like things that have happened to them. It's like that's how you connect with people. Like people just want to feel connected. Like at the end of the day, like we are social creatures. Like no matter how introverted we can be, we crave social connection and we want to feel connected to people. So a lot of times the things that we struggle with and the things that we go through, like that's how we bring each other closer. So don't see your weaknesses as a weakness. Like, yeah, you can label it as such, but just know that like you're going to use it to grow and to create something wonderful out of it.
That actually gets me thinking about just my friendships. And the friendships that have lasted are the ones that I was the most vulnerable in, and the ones that they were the most vulnerable in. I think
Yeah.
as I look back at a pattern of like friendships, the most surface level ones are the ones that just never last. So there is power in weaknesses. There's power in, yeah, just that real life connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot more powerful than we think. And, I just want to encourage anybody too that like feels like they don't have a lot of friends. Like you don't need a lot of friends. I've had the same friends for many years. I only have a few of them. And those are the people that I can be vulnerable and share my struggles with. And those are the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. And I always say this, it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, because it's true. You want quality people that you can feel like you can share your struggles with. And if you don't have those people in your life, I want to also encourage you that it is better to be alone than to have people in your life that aren't in looking out for your best interest and don't want to, are using your weaknesses against you, I guess. So you will get there eventually and find the right people for you. And just know that sometimes being alone is better than being around the wrong people.
I agree. It's so important to have people that, one, that know you and that supports you and that can be there during like your biggest growing phases. I think a lot of times, especially in my life, I've had so many different directions I could go And so I share about one direction, maybe it doesn't come true, but it's the people that support you through every idea, through every dream you have. Like it's like the biggest and most important thing. I think those are the real ones for sure. A story that you shared that has really impacted me is, are you growing through what you're going through?
Yeah.
Are you growing through what you're going through? Can you just share that story with us?
Life coach certification lesson that I learned through just feeling like I wasn't enough and that, I wasn't good enough, whatever. A mentor coach like said that to me. She's like, are you sitting in your misery or are you growing through it? I was like, yeah, that's really good because I think a lot of times when we're feeling unworthy, we're not feeling good enough, things aren't going our way, something frustrating happens, we tend to like vent, complain, sit there and kind of like wallow in the misery. I think it's really easy to do, but it's so important to close the gap from when you get kicked down to when you stand back up. I think being able to close that gap is like one of the biggest things that we can do as humans to just cultivate like a happier and more successful life. Because if you sit there too long and the misery and just being upset and angry and mad for whatever reason, you more likely are going to create subconscious beliefs for yourself. Bad things always happen to me. Why does this never go right? The more that you say stuff like that and you just sit in it, the more likely that those things are going to come true because you just keep saying it and just embedding it into your subconscious. So it's important to feel what you need to feel when you're going through it, but to also just realize that you have to grow through what you're going through. So feel what you need to feel, then decide that, okay, that happened. I'm learning through it. I'm going to grow through it. And on the other side of that, I am going to be a better person because of it.
For somebody who is maybe struggling to grow through what they're growing through, can you share 3 Bible verses that might just encourage them today?
My favorite verse that I actually like, it's like the only Bible, not the only Bible verse, but one of the few that I actually have memorized is Joshua 1:9, which is, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord God is with you wherever you go. That is just so powerful. It's just a powerful reminder that God is with you wherever you go, even though you might not be able to see him, you can't hear him, it doesn't feel like he's there. He's working in the background. He is doing things that you can't see. We all have our tunnel vision that we're looking through, and God has the bird's eye view. So we have to remember that there's things going on that we don't understand, that we can't see, and that there's a reason for it. So God is with us and we have to trust him. And then 2 other Bible verses, which are like really good at kind of just like honing in this confidence theme, is Isaiah 41:10, which is, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God, which is very similar, kind of hits the same as Joshua 1:9. And then Hebrews 13:6 says, so we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper and I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? And this one I really, really love because it's just like such a good reminder that like if we have God on our side, like there's nothing to be afraid of. There literally is nothing. Like the anxiety, the worry, the depression, like, and trust me, we all go through it. Like it's normal to feel those things from time to time, but God is with us. Like we don't need to sit and sulk in it. You know what I mean? Like feel it and then trust God and know that better is on its way.
Better is on its way. What can mere mortals do to me and to you? Absolutely nothing. God is bigger, better, the best. Emma, thank you. Amazing, amazing words of purpose in our first episode and confidence today in this episode. So to close out, Emma, what is one action step that somebody can take today towards building confidence?
It's honestly just to stop thinking and start doing and trust that God, if he has put it in your heart and it is in his will, then it will be done. He has made you more than capable and you are more than able through him. And just take imperfect action, just one small step, 1% better every day, as you say, Dom, and you will get there. It's just getting out of your own head and that trusting that God has made you more than capable.
Taking imperfect action 1% at a time. Emma, how can people connect with you? How can people find you? They need to, they should, absolutely 100%.
Mainly on TikTok, so it's at Emma_purpose coach, and you can send me a direct message on there.
Emma, you are the best. You are such an inspiration to all of us. Thank you. Thank you for the time. These 2 episodes have been so fun, and I cannot wait to, what can I not wait for? So many things. I can't wait to hear about what you're working on this summer. So many things ahead for you. Yeah, you're such a light to this world, so thank you.
Aw, thank you for saying so, and right back at you. I'm excited for you too, for us. There's great things ahead, and there's great things for everyone that's listening. So,
Amen. All right, Emma. Thank you.